We also want to thank you, Lord our God, for the gift of friendship, the gift of leadership, and the gift of women who create nations. So we invite you, especially that there are women in this room, to continue fostering our nation. As we ask Mother Mary to intercede for us in the glory of your name, and we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, the world without end. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable Professor. I didn't know that you have got so many Catholics. Honorable Nakachinta, I couldn't recognize you without the binoculars. You look incomplete.
You see, charging.
Okay, thank you so much. You're welcome. Allow me to have the honor and the privilege to ask the Secretary General of the party, Honorable Nixon Chilangwa, to take over the proceedings. Honorable Sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are happy to have you in our midst. I will not take much time. I'll immediately call upon the acting president, Honorable GBM Luvinda, to address our colleagues from the media. Honorable Luvinda.
Colleagues, like the last time when we met, I am still fully vaccinated, and I know that my colleagues here are fully vaccinated, so please allow me to take off the mask so that you can hear me.
You want the president to stand or to sit?
To sit.
I think for the purposes of quality of sound.
You want me to sit?
Yes, sir.
Very kind people, very kind. Thank you. Honorable members of the Central Committee, the National Chairman, the Secretary General, and my colleagues, and members of the press, we welcome you to this press briefing. And let me join the Media Director in apologizing to you for starting this press briefing late. We hope that you'll still be able to meet your deadlines. Colleagues, we have called you today to address a very disturbing trend that is growing in our country. And the trend that I'm referring to is very well known to all of you discerning journalists. The trend of trying, by all means, to divert attention from important national matters to triviality and falsehoods. You may recall that a few months ago, there was a story that was trending about how $98 million was alleged to have been misappropriated in the procurement of maize sheds. That story was raised and was linked to the Patriotic Front. When responses were given by the Patriotic Front that the people who were involved in that procurement were actually members of the current UPND regime, the story was bought off. It was paid off social media and it died. We've been hearing every so often when there's a big national topical issue that the UPND and their praise singers decide to bring in stories that will divert attention. All of us know that for the time being, the elephant in Zambia is multifaceted. One is the future of Vedanta in Zambia. Associated with that is the future of KCM Added to that is the combination of the KCM, Miringo, and DPP issue. What is hurting the people at the moment, for which people want answers, is the rising cost of living. And instead of the UPND answering to these very pertinent questions, and I suppose because they have no answers to these pertinent questions, they have decided to sponsor another triviality. A triviality which is now being given amphibious life. It's growing in all directions. It is inciting others who are even far-flung, who are remotely connected to the matter. Others who have no knowledge of the issue are all being looked in to try and make this become a very big issue. The issue I'm speaking to is the issue of the FTJ University. Screaming headlines such as the one that was carried by the Diggers in their yesterday's newspaper. FTJ University scandal, a serious indictment on PF, says Melupi. In this story, and many associated stories, the UPND are trying to create an impression that the Patriotic Front stole money from the FTJ University. And yet when you read the story, they don't explain how the Patriotic Front, or even its leaders, possibly stole the money. All they say is money was paid. To whom was the money paid? They don't state. Who paid the money? They don't state. Who was the recipient? They don't state. But they still go ahead with screaming headlines. The PF are indicted. As leaders of the Patriotic Front, we cannot see things like this happening while we lie down. We have a duty to protect the integrity of the Patriotic Front. And we're getting totally incensed by the habit of the UPND to continue to label our party as a corrupt party. We know for a fact that they're doing this purely to create an impression in the minds of the people of Zambia that the Patriotic Front as a party and all its members are corrupt. Time has come for us to call the bluff. However, I'm very privileged to be flanked by two people who had something to do with this university. The university was supposed to have been constructed, or is being constructed, in Mansa, and the gentleman on my left, the Honorable Secretary General, was Minister for the province during that time. I'd like to ask you, Minister, can you please explain to the press why the PF should be indicted over the FTJ University? Please explain to us what happened. What was your role in this as Minister for the province? Because we've also seen social media reports, people pointing fingers at you. What was your role in this project?
Thank you, Acting President, and thank you very much again for allowing me to say a few words about what is the role of provincial administration. I like to believe that's where the whole story must start from. Do people really understand what the role of a provincial minister or provincial administration is? The provincial administration's role is to govern the province on behalf of the central government. Our country and our systems are highly centralized. The systems in this country are highly centralized, meaning that all capital projects in this country are procured from the center. All capital projects in this country are procured by Lusaka. Our role is to find a piece of land where a school must be built. Our role is to find a piece of land where a hospital must be built. Our role is to find land, in this particular case, where a facility like FTJ University must be built. The procurement of FTJ was done in Lusaka by the Ministry of Higher Education. And I can also take you slightly backwards. The FTJ University started way back in 2013 by President Sata, who came to Luapula province and laid a foundation stone. And we know the events of 2014 and 2015, and there was little or nothing that happened. For us, what we saw was the arriving of the contractor on site. And for me, we got excited as a province that finally the project that was spoken about 5 years ago is coming to fruition. And in 2018, thereabout, I visited the site. And when I visited the site, Honorable Acting President, the contractor was on site and he was making works. He was digging foundations, they were setting up camps, and I had a duty as provincial minister to report to the country to say the contractor to build the FTJ University has arrived on site and he is building the university. And I issued a statement. To the best of my knowledge, that was our involvement as a province. Colleagues from the media, wherever there's a construction, there's a huge billboard and placards are placed on that particular billboard. And it tells you who the main contractor is. It tells you who the quantity surveyor is. It tells you who the financier is. It tells you who the project manager is. It tells you all sorts of things about people managing that project. And I can bet you, if you look at the information that has been thrown all over media, you will not find the name of provincial minister or provincial administration being the supervisors. The supervisors and the financiers are all based in Lusaka. So that is our involvement. Our involvement was to receive the project and from time to time check on it. All the rest of documentation, all the rest of the monies and everything else was being done in Lusaka. That's how it is. I would have loved to go a step further, but I like to think I'm constrained unless you ask me at some stage. Because from 2018 to 2019, 2020, a lot of things happened in this country. Advent of COVID and how some projects, Your Excellency, you know very well, these journalists know very well, that there was a pronouncement by the PF government on how some projects which were below 80% were going to be suspended, and only projects above 80% were going to be completed. That was clear. It was announced. Everybody reported it. But lo and behold, because we don't want to interrogate real issues on the ground, it's a question of fire and smoke. When the fire is burning, if people elect to run with the smoke, they will leave the fire behind. So, to the extent of my involvement, I like to think I will be able to end there. But if I'm required to put some more meat on what I know and what I've read and what is pertaining, I'll be able to do that. But also of high interest, there's abandonment of the FTJ University. The project has not finished. Is it the only project that has not finished in the history of this country? In 2008, President Rupia Banda announced that he was going to make Kasaba Bay one of the best tourist destinations. And they started building runways. And they said we are going to have 4 or 5 big hotels in that particular area. When PF came into government in 2011, we visited Kasaba Bay. You see how the project was abandoned. Did we interrogate? Did we find information why it was abandoned? In Lusaka here, we had a big project that was abandoned by the KK government way back before UNIP was kicked out of power, which is now called the government complex. Why was it abandoned, and when was it completed? So there are certain things that happen, but unfortunately you've said it, sir. The problem is we are dealing with a government. We are dealing with individuals who do not want to face reality. They would rather divert attention. It brings me to Genesis chapter 3. The first paragraph of Genesis chapter 3 talks about the snake being the most cunning creature, and that thrived on lies and lies and lies. So this is exactly what we have. We have a party in government that cannot tell the truth, and I was shocked when the president at his last press conference, he said in his household they don't tell lies. I was shocked because his very election was deceit, and from day one up to today it's deceit. Today he has a press conference, he tells you, no, we have nothing to do with vendetta. He goes 2 days later to South Africa, he talks about vendetta. So they are trying to divert attention on this particular issue. For me, what you, the journalists, must be talking about is, was money paid? If it was paid, who was paid the money? Who received the money? Where is that money? That must be the elephant in the room about FTJ University. Was the money paid? Who was the money paid to? And the Ministry of Finance has a responsibility. Vamilupi sit next to Honorable Msogotwane, Dr. Msogotwane. Why can't you ask him? Has the money been paid? Who was the minister who started this Minister of Finance who was sitting there? It started from Honorable Mtati, from where I sit, through other ministers of finances, until where we are today. They can exchange notes, find out who received the money.
Very well. Thank you, SG. Thank you, former Minister of Lopula Province. I did say I was privileged to have 2 people who were involved in this project. The next one is the one on my right. She, at the time of this business, was responsible for higher education. Professor, what do you know about this, and why is the PF being indicted by one Milupi over this matter?
Well, thank you very much, Acting President, and also thank you for giving me the privilege to be able to inform the nation the issues surrounding the FTJ University. I happen to have been Minister for Higher Education from 2016 to, I think, 2018 or 2019. And I found that some negotiations had taken place regarding the construction of the FTJ. And what I want to clarify right from the onset is that sometimes the name of a project can be misleading. So when you hear the FTJ University project, it actually involves 2 universities. That is the FTJ in Mansa and the Northern University in Kasama. And when you hear the $33 million that is being peddled around, it doesn't mean that all the $33 million was to go to FTJ. It meant that some of it goes to Northern University and some of it goes to FTJ. So I want to put that on the table so that when people are talking and when they multiply the $33 million into Kwacha, then they say, ha, $33 million to FTJ. No, it's a split between 2 universities. And how did this come about? It's because as a ministry, we analyzed the amount of money that goes into construction, that was going into the construction of the university at the time. We had completed the construction of Kapasamakasa University, and the phase 1 of what you see of that masterpiece was just about 85 million to 100 million. So we thought that the money that was being negotiated with the Chinese government couldn't go to building one university. It had to go to building of 2 universities. So when you send your headlines, this money was not meant for 1 university. It was meant for 2 universities. Secondly, the construction of this university was a loan from the Chinese government. And if the Minister of Finance was here, would give more clarity, because my role as Minister of Higher Education and my predecessors before me, because they are not able to be here to say their part. So I'm talking about my part during the time I was there. The money, always the lending group asks for some counterpart funding. So the money we are talking about is not all the money for the university, it's the counterpart funding, and it's a percentage of the total funds. So the bank that is going to lend the money asks for this counterpart funding. And so the Ministry of Finance gave the counterpart funding to the bank that was to give the FTJ the money for the 2 universities to be constructed. Now, at that time, if you recall, even in Parliament, the debate was around the fact that we had overborrowed. And the Minister of Finance then, who I hope she will have an opportunity, or he will have an opportunity to speak to this, made an announcement that we are going to scale down in terms of the projects that we had. They were called pipeline projects. So FTJ was a pipeline project, and therefore we're going to slow down. And Cabinet then announced that only the projects that were at 85% will continue, and FTJ was just maybe at 5% or less. So it was affected by this announcement, and therefore the contractor couldn't continue with this construction because they were waiting for government to clear this position so that money is released for the construction of these 2 universities. So this is the part about us as Ministry of Higher Education. We as a ministry are not involved in disbursing funds. We are not involved in giving legal opinions. Our role was to make sure that we negotiate so that these projects take place. Once the project is approved, then the necessary paperwork is done through the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General's office, then it comes to Ministry of Finance, and that's where we ended. And it doesn't matter what you want to do, unless that paper trail is done, then the actual construction of the university starts. So I just don't see how an indictment can be done on the patriotic front, because this was a government project and the government had to follow procedures, and you couldn't do anything outside the procedures. And this is why I want to say that I think one of the lessons personally I'm learning from this is for those who are sitting in Parliament to ensure that they push for a law for handovers. Because if you are able to hand over, your successor will be able to understand the processes that took place. So if there was an opportunity for the Minister of Higher Education then, Honorable Mushimba, who I handed over to, but had no opportunity to hand over to the current team in education, this is the information they would have given them. In the same vein, if Honorable Waliangand was given an opportunity to hand over to the current Minister of Finance, they would have gone through the paper trail of how these monies and at what point did the money get paid and to who was the money paid. Yeah? If there was a handover from the Minister of Infrastructure then, Honorable Vincent Mwale, to Honorable Milupi, he would have also given him at what point the project started, at what point was it abandoned, and why was it abandoned. Is it because the finances were not released? This would have actually settled well for the people of Zambia and even the people of Luapula and Northern Province. But unfortunately, what we're dealing with are speculations. So I think that it's very important going forward as a lesson, even for those who were in the Patriotic Front, who are still members of Parliament, to push for a law, regardless of whether there is a change of government from one party to another party. The people that were sitting in the office must be given an opportunity to do a proper handover in writing, so that everybody is speaking from the same voice and you are on the same page. So what we are going through is the lack of proper handover. When we left, and there was no opportunity for us to say to our colleagues, this is where you are, this is where this is sitting, this money is here, money is not here, and this is what we need to do. So I think that's an important lesson for all of us, and I hope those who are sitting in Parliament can push for this law, so that we don't do things because you change government, then everybody else doesn't matter. I think there is a lot of experience from us that we can pass on to our colleagues to do things even much better. Thank you.
Very well. That notwithstanding, I'm sure that you members of the press are fully alive to the fact that the ministry that is responsible for disbursement of funds is the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance causes for a paper trail to be established whenever money is being spent. Is it a wonder, therefore, that a minister can say what Honorable Milupi said? And I want to quote what he was quoted as having said in the Diggers newspaper. It is up to the law enforcement officers to determine where the money went and the action taken. That is why this matter has come, because law enforcement agencies are taking action. We are yet to see what happened. Action is being taken by law enforcement officers. Obviously, these will follow. Who paid the money? I think law enforcement officers are doing that. Who signed what contract? And if the contractor got the money, what did they use the money for? And who are they? Who could have possibly paid the money if it is not the Ministry of Finance? Is Honorable Milupi suggesting to us that the police must go to the Ministry of Finance to go and show the Minister of Finance that this is the contract that was signed, and on this date this is the transfer that was made from Treasury to this contractor? That record is there. Why do they want to wait and say we're asking law enforcement officers to come and tell us who signed the contract? The contract is in the possession of the Ministry of Finance. And by the way, you have carried stories about some people having been named in this matter. Secretary to Treasury, former Secretary to Treasury was named. Former PS for Higher Education, Professor Nkanza, was mentioned. You also heard about some architect and a quantity surveyor. How did they arrive at those people if they don't have a paper trail and they want to create an impression that it is the PF that is indicted in the matter? What is fortunate for us is that, as my colleagues explained, this contract commenced during the time of one Minister of Finance. It was passed on to other ministers of finance. The other two ministers of finance are no longer in government. But the Minister of Finance, who was there at the time when this contract was being entered into, is fortunately part of the current cabinet.
Yeah.
Felix Mutati was Minister of Finance in 2016. He was Minister of Finance in 2018. He stopped being Minister of Finance in 2018 when he was moved to Ministry of Works and Supply. If these transactions were taking place at the time that he was Minister of Finance, surely can't he simply go to Cabinet and explain that, look, in this contract, money was paid, but that person interfered and took this money? Can't you do that? Why are they playing as though they don't have the information when they actually have it on their fingertips? Why don't they ask Mutati? For me, as acting president of this party, I can call these ones and say, come and explain, because they are members of my team. Mr. Milupi has a member of his team in the name of Felix Mutati. Why doesn't he ask Felix Mutati to say, my friend, was this money paid to the contractor, or was it paid as 15% counterpart funding to the bank that was arranging the facility? Instead of bringing the name of the Patriotic Front into it. What has the Patriotic Front got to do with this? Yes, Felix Mutati was Minister of Finance in the government of the Patriotic Front. But surely he's not PF. He's not PF. So if there's anybody who should be asked questions to clarify this matter, it is those who served in the office of Minister of Finance. If they can claim that they can't reach Margaret Mwanakatwe, they can't reach Bwalyangandu, but at least they can reach the one who was there when the project commenced. He is still there now. He is as obliged to this government as he was then. Instead of them playing such trivialities, raising smoke, just blowing smoke to create an impression. I know that the people who have been named will be appearing in court and they'll go and defend themselves. And that is their responsibility, to defend themselves. It is the responsibility of whoever is indicted to defend themselves. However, it is not acceptable for anyone to lump the whole party with such treacherous headlines. This is totally unacceptable. And like I said, the Patriotic Front shall not sit idle when its name and reputation is being brought into public odium in this fashion. If they have evidence indeed that any particular individuals misapplied public resources, let them go to the individual and not label the Patriotic Front. They have done this over and over again. And we know that they are doing this because, unfortunately for some people, they think that their candle will light brighter if they distinguish the candles of others. And they think that if they distinguish the candle of the Patriotic Front, then their fickle candle will light brighter. But sorry, that's not the law of nature. It is the totality of all candles that lights the country. To distinguish the Patriotic Front, to extinguish the Patriotic Front for the sake of remaining the only rooster in the crow is not acceptable. The UPND had a duty to the Zambian people. And like we said, soon after the installation of President Hakainde Sami Hichilema, we in the Patriotic Front want to present to Zambians a different kind of opposition. One that is supportive of all progressive ideas and progressive policies. And one that will only criticize policies and not individuals. But please, don't you provoke us by what you're doing. Constantly labeling us thieves, constantly labeling the whole party as though the whole party was involved in any particular scandal. This we shall not accept. We shall not tolerate. For the sake of the many Zambians who have faith and confidence in the Patriotic Front, and for all the members of the Patriotic Front, the leadership of the PF is saying, please stop this. Stop scandalizing the party. Colleagues, I spoke about how they are running away from explaining the increasing cost of living. Today I'm wondering how people in high density areas will access energy we were treated to some fantasy when Zambia was represented at the climate summit meeting. We were told that in a few years there will be no charcoal burning in Zambia. What alternative have we provided? And now today we have decided as a government, this country has decided that they're going to increase the connection fees in low density areas by 600%. 600%. A connection of a single phase has increased from 769 kwacha to 4,600 kwacha. That's 589% increase. In a country where the majority have no access to power. In a country where there was a government until August 2021 which invested heavily in power generation. Edgar Chagwalungu and his team were investing in power generation to make sure that power is affordable to the Zambian people. Now they're making it even untenable for the poor. And by the way, young permanent secretary at Ministry of Tourism, be careful. Be extremely careful, my young brother. I want to remind you that you're walking a path that others before you walked. I want to remind PS Muhanga of the Sylvia Masebo Tribunal. Sylvia Masebo caused the cancellation of safari concessions. The matter was taken to a tribunal. We have seen that Attorney General Kabesha Mulido rendered an opinion as chief legal advisor, chief principal advisor of this government. He rendered an opinion which he delivered to the president, proposing to the president that don't cancel these safari concessions because they were duly awarded. And yet Muhanga, because his minister said only foreigners, non-indigenous Zambians are participating, therefore we're going to cancel these concessions. Muhanga, don't be the one whose fingers are burnt. My suggestion to you is let the ones who decided be in the forefront. They must not hide behind you. Because I can assure you, Muhanga, that when you are taken to court, they will not come to your defense. Back off. You cannot interfere with contracts that were duly and legally awarded. You do that at your own peril. Dear colleagues, I want to end by informing you that the list of members of the Patriotic Front who are being harassed has increased from the last time that we met, when there were 38. Now the number has gone beyond 56. In our next press briefing, Professor Nkanduluo, who has been assigned the responsibility of compiling this, shall be invited to come and speak to this, so that you can see the kind of harassment that we're undergoing. And the 57 vehicles that were confiscated, which was subject of a statutory instrument, is a matter that is being pursued actively by the Patriotic Front. So please assist us to inform the country that the Patriotic Front is still as live and as active as it was even before the August 2021 elections. And we are determined to lead this party to further growth. This includes subjecting the party to participating in an extraordinary conference. And again, pretty soon, chairman of the committee will be inviting you to come and speak to you on this matter after his team has reported to the Central Committee. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable the Acting President. Thank you, Professor Kandulo. Thank you, Honorable Chilangwa. Members of the press, if there are any questions, you can simply tell us your name and the institution you represent and ask the question. Do we have any questions? Oh, yes, comrade.
Thank you. Acting President, good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
members of the Central Committee. My name is Mike Mugala from Daily Mail. I have a question for Honorable Chilangwa. On 18th July 2019, you posted on your social media account, Facebook to be precise, and I quote, "Tell the liars that the FTJ Chilwa University project is on course. The government has met all its financial obligations. I've been hearing them tell lies that the university is not being constructed. Why lie with straight faces? Insoni Ebuntu. Why not just drive to the construction site in Mansa? Wane lekeno bofi." This is what you said. So, don't you think you lied to the Zambian people and misled the public, going by what has been said?
Thank you very much.
You want the? Is there? Do we have any questions so that we can combine them together? Yes, Comrade Tito Spring Team.
Okay. Acting President, not to jump the gun really, about the extraordinary conference, people have been asking about funding. There have been issues to do with funding. And the second gentleman of mine whispered to me and said, you vying for the president, you would give the UPND a run for their money. What's your take on that?
Any question? Yes, Comrade.
Patrick Soko from Camnet TV. Just seen Honorable GBM. I just wanted to also get his perspective. There's been speculation on social media that he wanted to defect from the PF to the UPND.
Thank you. We'll pick those three questions. We'll start with Honorable Chilangwa, Acting Secretary General, sir. You can respond.
Thank you very much. When was that posting issued?
18th July
18th
2019.
July. Did you have the liberty or the opportunity to visit the site at that particular date?
Honorable, I'm going by what you posted, and I believe that was your official account.
No.
It was well managed by somebody that manages
No.
your social media account.
I'm asking a question to say, did you visit the site at that particular time? Now put things in context. The context is, today is July 18th and 2019.
Yes.
I'm at the site. The contractor is on site. He's working. He's digging foundations. He's putting up the infrastructure. He's starting to work. That posting was of July 2019. It is not today's posting.
But Honorable Minister, just do you call digging foundation and putting up structures progressing very well? Honestly, Honorable Minister, 5% of works. 5% of works.
My friend,
Honorable Minister.
let me start. Let me finish, my friend. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Okay, what you need to do, what you also need to do is, for you, my brother, for you to start building a house, you must start from somewhere. You don't start with digging foundations. And what you need to do is, can we find somebody, you are interested parties, can we find somebody who must go and interrogate the structures that were put up? Can we go and interrogate the foundations that have been put up? What kind of concrete is there? What kind of steel have they used? For you, if you are going to build a 30-story building or a 5-story building, the strength of that structure is dependent on the foundation. The foundation is the beginning, my brother. You will never build anything without a foundation. So what we need to do is to go and interrogate that foundation which is there. All the structures, the pins you are seeing, let's go and interrogate them. Only if you interrogate those particular structures, my brother, not because they are overgrown with grass. The fact is, there was work which was being done. The contractor was on site. In fact, to tell you the truth, Professor Luo visited that site at about the same period, and there was work which was going on. So that is my take. I never lied to the people of Zambia or the people of Luapula province when we posted that, because works were going on at that particular time.
Yes.
I submit.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you. I will ask Honorable GBM, the Vice President of the Acting President School, the last one, to deal with the issues.
Thank you very much. What was the question again?
You're defecting to do.
You see, the problem with you Zambians, or rather us Zambians, is that we like to act on speculation and rumors. You all know where GBM you can find him. You've got his phone number. It's not hidden. Why have you only decided to come and ask me now, when this rumor, I think, has been going on for some time? But my simple question, my simple answer, I think, is that I have no intentions of going back to UPND whatsoever. I have not forgotten what I went through in the UPND party for 4 years that I was vice president. So I will never go back to UPND. That's what you Zambians should know. And tell those who are speculating to stop speculating or putting ideas in me. I have no intentions whatsoever, and I will never ever do it. So my brothers and sisters, those who are watching me, is that I am back in my PF. A PF government party which I helped to form government in 2011. So I'm back in my party. I just belong to where I belong, where I should belong. And mind you, there are those who are in UPND who have been there for 23 years. And why can't I also be in the PF for 23 years, even if we're in the opposition? I'll be here forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable Luvinda. You may conclude.
Tito, let me take advantage of the question on behalf of the leadership of the Patriotic Front, to commiserate with KBN on their loss of their equipment. I really hope that they took insurance on their equipment.
It's not an innocent way.
I really hope it is innocent. If it is not, we hope that the police will quickly swing in action and bring the culprits to book. Loss by any person in the country must be considered loss by all of us. KBN might be a private television station, but it was serving all of us. And I think that all of us will do well to pray that they quickly find their feet again. They are a very important news outlet like any one of you. Yes, we did indicate, Tito, that we're looking for money. And how I wish that 10% of the money that UPND claim we have, we really had. Because if we had that money, we would not have been suffering the way we are suffering. Had we that money, we could have already sponsored our extraordinary conference. But unfortunately, we don't have the money. But our committee, led by a national chairman, came up with this idea, and it was approved by Central Committee, that as we are looking for money, let's also invite members of the party and members of the public. You can imagine how the building that this gentleman was talking about, the government complex, those of you who were there then, you may recall that Kenneth Kaunda and Unip asked that every Zambian contributes just one ingwe, one kwacha, one kwacha, one kwacha, one kwacha. And that's how that project started. And that's how the Chinese realized that Zambians were able to do it, and they came in and gave us a loan. Now, for this party, large as it is, we are rebranding not only in name, we're also rebranding in deed. And we're telling our members, this is your party. we don't want to have a big man syndrome in the Patriotic Front. That one person comes around and says, I've brought the money, let's go to the conference. Because the one who will come with the money will become the big man. And everybody will be running around that person simply because they brought the money. This is a pro-poor party. And it is our prayer that the poor members of this party will take it upon themselves to contribute to our holding the extraordinary conference. We are determined to do that. And we're on course, and like I mentioned to you, the chairman for that committee has to report to the Central Committee, and after that he will be allowed to come and brief you, and through you to brief the nation on the progress being made. And talking about progress, my friend Bogala, if you say we start the project in May, and by July the slab is done, then surely you've made a lot of progress. So we are also hoping that the chairman for our committee will come and report progress on the work that was assigned to them. You vying for the presidency, you give a run for UPND. Mark my words. Mark my words. It doesn't have to be any one of us gathered here. No. It is not a personal matter. It is not about the individual. It is about the collectiveness of the members of this party. It is more about the people who are supporting this party in far-flung areas. It is about the people of Zambia who are becoming angry on a daily basis. Those children who were told these will not suffer as a result of the increase of fuel prices, and now they can't afford to go to school by bus, they have to walk. It is those children who shall give the UPND a run for their money come 2026. What we do ourselves is just present the vehicle. We are just the vehicle. You, my dear friends in the press, I can assure you that some of these nice stories you're writing about them and so on and so forth, by the turn of 2023, mark my words, you will look towards the Patriotic Front. There is no doubt in my mind. There is no doubt in my mind. You know, even when a marriage is new, everybody looks upon it with glee. They all admire it. But as the Bembas say, after some time, inganda baikumbu mutenge. But for you, you are living inside the inganda, so you can't even see the mutenge. You will see the cracks in the wall. That is going to remind you of the fact that there once was a president called Michael Chilufya-Sata, who was succeeded by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who delivered on their promise, who delivered tangible development for this country. The development which now is a pleasure for others to come and commission. And we're very proud. We're very proud that we have a lot of projects for them to commission. They are busy commissioning to an extent that they can't start any new project.
Shame.
There's no room anymore because their job now is just to commission what we started. By the time they finish commissioning and they want to start new projects, Zambians will say, Sonta oko wabomba. And wherever they will sonta, they will see the footprints of Edgar Chagwa Lungu. They will see the footprints of these people here. So my friend, it is not about me. It is about this party. I, as an individual, who fear. But with these people, no one will stop us. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to take the last set of, I'll start from Comrade. I'm seeing, is that Comrade Bugala again? Oh, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Any other question? Comrade, 5. So we're going to have the last 5 questions.
There's another one here.
This, yes, I've counted it, sir. Yes, Comrade.
Thank you. Good morning, panelists. My name is Meshek Nirongo, KNC TV. I want to get a clarification. I was not clear on one thing. I only heard Honorable Kanduluo stating that a certain fund, which was a percentage of the total amount of money was paid. What I want to get is in clear, in black and white. Was the money paid or was the money was not paid? And if it was paid, who was it paid to and what was the money used for?
Thank you. Yes, comrade.
Good morning, my name is Philemon Muyunga from Power FM. First, I want to understand what led to the project of the FTJ University to be less than 5% by the time it was announced that projects that are less than 80% won't be completed. Then the second question I have is there are some callings from some sections of society saying that PF should consider to postpone the conference because of some impurity with some leaders. So I just want to get a comment on those two questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Comrade.
My name is Mangala, I write for the Little Post. I felt it a bit uneasy when the previous leaders in government started laboring to explain what government did. But I do understand that every government operates under the principle of collective responsibility. The government which takes over is supposed to inherit all other activities from the other government and adopt as its own. Now, my question is, what do you think is the reason why the current government has refused to embrace the activities which the PF began and was going ahead to avoid such accusation to go back and exposing themselves over the issues which are set forward?
Thank you.
I wanted to find that we're privileged. We have two former ministers of defense, Mr. GBM and Mr. Tango. There's the issue of AFRICOM setting up offices in Zambia. As former ministers of defense, you can highlight on the risk or dangers because our neighbors are raising concerns concerning the same setting up of the AFRICOM office in Zambia. Then the second question is, Mr. Chilango has been mentioned again. People of Wapula say they are asking concerning the money that you are allegedly misappropriated concerning the export.
Wow. Do we have any questions, members of the press? Comrade.
I just want a clarification from the two honorables, Honorable Chilangwa and Honorable Professor Kango. On 31st January 2018, Honorable Chilangwa posted, government has secured $132 million for the construction of the Frederick Chiluba University in Wafula province. Fast forward in 2022, we are told that $3 million was paid to the Chinese company. And what we see there is the unfinished toilet. The Honorable Professor Nkangru has clarified that that was meant for two universities. My question is, why is it that the other university is silent? Then the other question is this 132 million also for the two universities? Then lastly, if it was for the two universities, was the same 15% again from the same $132 million which was posted by Honorable Chilango?
Thank you. I think there's a series of questions that have been asked for the universities. We'll limit them to Honorable Professor Kandro and Honorable Chilangwa to respond to those specific matters. Additionally, Honorable Chilangwa was asked the question of the money from Expo, and I'm sure he's going to respond to those particular issues to do with money from Expo. There's an issue which was asked about the General Conference, that there is a cry that is coming from some people that Patriotic Front must postpone the General Conference for June. And I'll leave that to the acting president to respond to that particular issue of the General Conference. There's the issue of AFRICOM, which was raised Those will be answered by Honorable GBM and Honorable Chama, who are defense ministers. But I want to be quick, Honorables, to mention that President Sami has warned that anyone who talks about these issues will be visited. So as you respond, you must know there's a warning hanging around by President Sami that anyone who talks about AFRICOM, and he was very particular that former defense ministers should not be in the forefront. So as you are responding, Honorables, know that Sami is hunting for any of you who will speak about this as former defense ministers. I'll leave the issues of the two universities to Honorable Professor and Honorable Chilangwa. You may start, ma'am.
If you permit me, I would like to ask the people that have asked the questions to come here so that they hear me very clearly. Because these are things that I talked about. And probably at the back there you can't hear. So if you can come up front, please, so that you clearly hear me. I did say that the process of acquiring a loan to build any infrastructure or to be used for any activity is a process. And as far as the construction of the FTJ University was concerned, it was a process where monies had to be agreed upon. And it involves many ministries. The Ministry of Education's role, because this whole process started when there was just one Ministry of Education in 2013. Then when the ministry got split into higher education and general education, then the higher education took on the mantle to deal with the universities. Now, when the amount of money that was procured, the figure was announced, and we had just completed building, for example, the Kapasamakasa University, Mukuba University, we thought that this money could actually build two universities. And this is how that project, FTJ, has two universities in it. That is the the Northern University and the FTJ. Northern is in a place called Ntumpa, and also the FTJ is in a place in Mansa. Now, the person who says they only went and saw a toilet, I'm surprised, unless somebody came with a shovel and all sorts of equipment and carried some, because I remember, in fact, there is even a social media that's going around, and you as journalists, I'm sure you have seen this, where I have arrived, and I'm even saying to the contractor that I'm giving you 3 years to complete this project. And I'm standing before buildings. So where have those buildings gone? So again, this is the issue of speculation. Let those who have been be the ones to talk about it, because it's not true that there's just a toilet. Unless between that time and now, somebody went with pickies and shovels and went and uprooted all those buildings and took them away. So that is one point, that the money was meant for 2 universities. The second thing I said is that when you get a loan, that money, the country that is giving you a loan, and in this case China, they ask the government procuring that loan to give a counterpart fund. That is, if let's say the loan is 100,000, they ask you to give in about 15% or 25% or 15%. So the $33 million we are talking about, $33 million we are talking about, is 15% of the total loan which government had to contribute. For those of you who have been involved in social projects, let me simplify it. During the time that the MMD government was in power, when you were given CDF money, you were told, can the community contribute? And they contributed usually in kind. So they took sand, and then they sort of quantified it and said, This is 15% of the project. In this case, government can't go and start taking sand and stones and whatever. So they actually agree on paper to contribute money. So that is the 33 million we are talking about. Okay, out of the 200, I just can't remember the figure, but it's about 200 and something million dollars that was to go to the construction of these two universities. So this is the money that anybody from Ministry of Finance, not Ministry of Higher Education, should be able to inform the nation that yes, this 33 million was paid to such and such a person or such and such an institution, and so on and so on. As we sit here, to start speculating that 33 million was paid to whoever is neither here nor there. But what we know is that we were informed as a ministry that authority had been given in writing. And this is why the contractors moved on site, because they were also informed. And we went to see what has started happening with the money that was given. And of course, I think everyone has seen they had built even their mobilization wherever they were going to be leaving the contractors to start working. They had started doing the slab and so on and so on. And it's on one of the social media pages where they show the slab, even the steel, because that was going to be upstairs buildings. It's there. So, me, I'm a professional. Yeah? And you are professionals. It's very, very important for a professional to state facts. And it's very important for a professional to do research. And when they give information, it's based on evidence. So whoever went to see a toilet, I think you are not being professional, and you're not basing your submission on facts, which we expect from you, because information is power. And the press builds or destroys. So we'd like the press to remain professional and build this nation for your own good, for the good of your children, and for the good of your children's children. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Chilangwa, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this issue to keep on going round and round and round. I also want to state here very clearly, today, on the 12th of May, I have a party, a very big party, and I invite all of you colleagues and tell you that I'm marrying this beautiful young lady here, and we have marriage certificates, and we tell the whole world that we are married, we are a couple. 1 year down the road, our marriage breaks down. Does it mean that I wasn't married on that day? Does it mean that I was not married? No. Does it mean that I didn't have a wedding function? It means I had a wedding function. The very fact that 1 year down the road that wedding has collapsed does not mean that I did not get married. It's the same thing. You alluded to a statement by me on the 31st of January 2019. No, sir, that was not my statement. It was a statement by Honorable Chitaluchirufya. It's him who spoke about the 132 million. My statement was on the 18th of July, and I've accepted my statement. And I'm saying I issued that statement because that was happening then when that statement was issued. Just like when I got married, I issued a statement that I'm gotten married, and this is my wife, and everybody saw her, and we took pictures. That doesn't mean that we never got married. So that's how it is. Somebody's talking about misapplication of money for the expo. Which money? Where? Money for the expo was not being collected and put in the pockets. Money for the expo had a specific account, and all money came through bank transfers. And after the expo and during the whole process, I am not a controlling officer. The controlling officer for Luapula province was and is still the permanent secretary. So all queries and everything on the how money for the expo was spent or expended must go to the right places. Lastly, on the same issue, After the expo, that expo account was audited by government auditors. Have they brought out issues? That was 2017. This is 2022. This is 5 years later. That's when somebody has realized that obviously Chilangwa misapplied the money. I was in the forefront of raising money for the expo. I personally took it upon myself. In fact, for your information, the expos that followed, the Luapula Expo, they were funded through Ministry of Finance. The Luapula Expo was never financed through Ministry of Finance. All the money that was spent on the Luapula Expo, I personally had to go out there and raise the money from the corporate world. And the money was not given to me in cash and put in my pocket. The money was channeled through an accounting system, and money has got a trail, colleagues. Money has got a trail. It cannot just disappear in mid-air. So those details are there. But those who elect to peddle, as you hear, I hear from you, colleague, that there are people peddling, that are misapplied, are misappropriated money. I think they must give me the details. Chilangwa, this is the money that you misapplied. Chilangwa, this is the money that you pocketed, and the rest of it. But I can tell you the truth. Every day now it's Chilangwa. I think I've come a big thing, eh? Yes. Are you not shocked, colleagues? Suddenly Chilangwa is a big thing. Everybody must talk about Chilangwa this, Chilangwa that. It's exciting. Maybe they are building me for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll start with Honorable Chama on the issue of AFRICOM, sir, and then Honorable GBM might put in a word if necessary.
On the issue of AFRICOM, I know the Master of Ceremony has put a caveat, but we will not be moved by a caveat because I saw an oath of secrecy when I was being inaugurated as Minister of Defense. What happens thereafter, every Zambian has the right to question, okay? And people should not gauge citizens to ask questions. I'm no longer Minister of Defense. You must know for the fact that every embassy in this country, equally Zambia, wherever Zambia is, if we so wish to establish the ministry of the office of the defense attaché, they are represented in every country that were represented as a country. Equally here in Zambia, the American government have the defense attaché who does the liaison about military cooperations between Zambia and America. Equally, Russia has a defense attaché at the Russian embassy. Equally, China has a military attaché at their embassy. All the neighboring countries that surround Zambia, they have military attachés who are at their respective embassies. So the Zambians have been questioning this agreement, this new agreement about Africa. What is it all about? Why establish another office? And this is a question that begs the answer. Rather than threatening Zambians and citizens, scaring people, they think that they can scare everybody. Some of us cannot be scared. Cannot be threatened. Operation. So the establishment of that office begs answers because there is already the defense attaché at the American embassy who represents the American governments in terms of military cooperations between Zambia and America. Now they are establishing a second office. What is that office going to do in Zambia? That's what begs the answer. So this threatening that Sami threatened people, we are not a kind of people who can be threatened. Find other people that you can threaten. And that's the response I can give.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chama. Honorable GBM, do you want to add that?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, being a Minister of Defense for 2 years, that was 2011 to 2013, I went through this, actually, the issue of Africa. And this is an issue which was raised when I was in Washington, DC, that they wanted to establish this office. But you see, the question now that Zambians should ask themselves is that, why has the previous 6 presidents, those who are let may their souls rest in peace, did refuse to have this office opened here in Zambia? When I came from Washington, I did brief cabinet at that time about the intention of the American government to establish an office in Lusaka. The entire cabinet refused to say, no, I think that cannot happen. And we left that now in the hands of the late President Michael Chirufya-Sada. From that time, no office, no discussion was no discussion went on about the African office. So we are surprised today that now the 7th president, in the name of Hakainde Hichilema, he has found it fit that now we should open this office. I think Zambians, you must ask yourselves, what's so special? If not, let them explain to us Zambians. They owe us an explanation. What's so special about opening this office now, after 6 presidents, former presidents, did refuse to open this office? This is what we want to know. We are free to know that as Zambians, and it's our right, it's our democratic right to know why they want to open that office, period. And also, I just want to comment, through you, our acting president, I just want to comment on the 33 million FTJ Chiluba funds. You colleagues, I think you know where to go. Don't shift the blame on PF, okay? If we made a mistake, I'm saying if we made a mistake, why don't you go back to the Minister of Finance? Because the Minister of Finance is a custodian of the funds. Hey. Simple. To find out what is this Milupi talking about. Milupi is on an agenda, is to dent the PF government, the previous government. That's all. But you journalists, if you want, why don't you from this meeting go walk to the Minister of Finance? You find all the papers and you find who they paid and who has the money as at today. Where is the money? Don't come and shift the blame on the PF. In fact, we were not the ones who were releasing the money. There was a sitting Minister of Finance who you should follow, who is no other than Mutati, period. Amen. So please let this not be, an issue. To us as PF, I think it's a small issue. It's just that you don't want to follow the right procedure. You know who to ask, not us. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Acting President. You will wind up the conference and you may attend to any other issues in your conclusion. But I'm happy that one of the proponents amongst a lot of members that have been rising that we don't need a general conference in June, one of them is here, William Hughes, IPS, Eastern Province, professional IPS, is also here as one of the proponents that the general conference must be delayed a bit until we put our house in order.
You will be consulted by the committee.
Yeah. So all those issues, Honorable Luwinda, as you are concluding, you may touch on that.
I'll be very brief, colleagues, so that we can give you time to go and file your stories. The issue of the extraordinary conference, like I said, is subject of a team. And that team is the one that will guide the Central Committee. If you are to ask my personal opinion, I can give it to you. But I am a member of the team. I play as a team member. So I'll leave that to that team to interrogate it and they will advise. Mainga, you raised a very important question. The principle of succession. Very important. The principle of succession. Now, where you missed it is that the current government doesn't seem to want to embrace what the previous government did. No, Mainga. As a matter of fact, they're embracing everything, but they are being mischievous. That's the best word. They're being mischievous. You remember when some people went to Kafiwe Gorge Lower? They were very proud. Kafiwe Gorge Lower, we're going to increase electricity generation. Who started it? The PF. You remember when some minister went to Mpika to commission the milling plant? What did they say? This is going to increase production. Who started it? PF. They went to Kapasa Makasa. Who started it? PF. Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe Airport. Who started it? PF. Who has commissioned it? Themselves. KK International Airport. Where does he land now? Sami, where does he land? KK International Airport. They're embracing all these things. The KK International Conference Center, what did Milupi say? And can you see the contradiction and the mischief? You see the mischief? Milupi himself stood to you, journalists, and said, this is what we mean when we talk about money being well spent. Who spent the money? PF. So you can see how mischievous they are. When it is done and finished, well done, we did it. Huh? The army barrack in Kawambwa, the Mununshi banana plantation. Remember, they were boasting it has posted profits. Huh? Who started it? The PF. The Kazungula Bridge. Huh? Where did he take Kagame? He took Kagame to Kazungula. He didn't tell Kagame, this was done by my predecessor. He said, you see, we are good people, we're developing the country. What about Mpezeni Hospital? What about here in Kabwata, the Salman Hospital? You remember when he went there? Yes. He went to inspect it, and what he said, this is our vision, the vision we have for Zambia. Who started it? Edgar Chagwalungu, PF. Yeah. What about the multi-story provincial headquarters in Choma? Where is Cornelius Met working from now? Who started it? PF. So you see, they are embracing these things. In Isoka, in Choma, in Solwezi, in Kafue, in Chipata, this woman here, as Minister of Fisheries and Livestock, went and put up regional laboratories for fisheries. And they'll just be commissioning. Friends, if we're to itemize all the projects that we left for them to commission, I reiterate what I said earlier. They are too busy commissioning our projects that they have no time to plan their own projects.
Even toilet and
where there is supposed to be FTJ. At least kunankala toilet mnaiona, but our muzani with Banakumbama foundation, deep foundation, slab is done. Or if they are going to even build the toilet, it is adabwa. So my friend Mainga, they are just being mischievous. They are embracing everything that we did. And you know, for us, when we took over with Michael Chilufya-Sata, we said we are people who believe in the principle of succession. We shall build on what our predecessors left, and we'll do it with honor and respect to them for their vision. Unfortunately, the people we have now, go and ask them if they have any little honor to say to us, ladies and gentlemen, you left this country here, we're going to build on it. For them, they want to create an impression that we left this country on ashes, that there was nothing to write home about, and yet they are the ones celebrating all our achievements. And finally, the issue of Africa, beyond what my two colleagues said, the question to be answered is, why does Zambia want to, number one, isolate and alienate herself from the continent of Africa? The AU, to which we are members, has opposed the idea of setting up any command center for any military in Africa. That's what the AU resolved. They don't want to have any command center. That's the reason why up to now, Africa Command Center is in Germany. Because Africans said no. Why, Minister, are we alienating ourselves against our brothers and sisters? Secondly, the reason we are opposed, we are being told it's not a military base. We don't mind whether it's a military base or not. For the fact that this is a command center for the whole of Africa, what does that mean? It means that America's military intelligence for Africa will be in Zambia. And when you're at war, do you think that belligerents want to go and kill only the people on the ground? They go to the Nav Center, the command center, where the command is being made, where the decisions are being made. And you bring that center, you put it in Zambia. What have you done? You have literally exposed yourselves. You are unnecessarily exposing yourselves to war, to risks. The third question that you, my friends, must be asking Sammy and his friends is, please, Sammy, ever since Zambia was born, we have been non-aligned. We're one of the countries that was fortunate to even host the non-aligned movement. If you go to Mulungushi International Conference Center, you will see a big plaque in there. That Mulungushi Conference Center was built by Kenneth Kaunda to host the non-aligned movement. Why are we departing from that? What is the benefit of this? I'm allowed to speculate, and I don't think I should be arrested for speculating. Is this quid pro quo? Are we paying back something? Can the people be told? If indeed this is what we agreed that we'll do as a way of assisting us to win elections, let the Zambians know. This is my own speculation. But the truth of the matter is that there are these questions that ought to be answered in the interest of current and future generations of Zambia. As far as we are concerned, the Patriotic Front, we see no benefit whatsoever in establishing a military intelligence command center of another country in our country. Would they allow Zambia army to go and set up a military intelligence system in Washington? They wouldn't. And like my colleague said, military cooperation is best through military defense attaches. That is the international standard. Why heighten it in Zambia to even have a center? They're even calling it desk. They think that when they call it desk, we think it's a table in a classroom. No! A desk, Vane, in this context means bringing lots of officers in Zambia to come and get in connection with all the defense attaches in Africa and start commanding them from Zambia. Huh? What are they doing that for? Maybe that's why it narrows my elections. Anati sevenzesera abantu bena stiziwa nakamba pachinyanja mulembe pachitonga ziko mkwambia.
Thank you so much, Acting President, Acting Secretary General, National Chairman, members of the Central Committee. Thank you so much. Members of the press will come to the conclusion of this assignment. Comrades Troy and